Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. My name is Sadiq, and I'm from MPA, and we would like to welcome you to the inaugural Maritime AI Clinic. So this event is organized by MPA and AI Singapore with support from the Singapore Shipping Association, the Singapore Maritime Foundation, the Singapore Maritime Institute, as well as the Pier 71. So before we begin proper, just some admin announcements. So if you have questions during the presentations, do use the chat function that's available on your right to type in your questions. So we will pick up on your questions, and you will either get an immediate reply via the chat, or it will be addressed during the Q&A session later. So do remember to mute your mics, but your mics are muted by the admin, but please remember to keep your mics muted. So with that, I would like to introduce the host of the event, Mr. Kenneth Lim. He's the Chief Technology Officer and the Senior Director for Innovation, Technology and Talent Division at MPA. Kenneth, over to you.
Thank you, Sadiq, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope you have a good lunch, because this afternoon you're going to also feed yourself with the knowledge of AI. Actually, I think this is the second time we are running this. The first time was a smaller group. It was almost like a round table where we have maritime colleagues from different subsectors coming together to discuss about AI and application of AI in maritime. It is there then we reckon that actually we need to cascade this AI knowledge into a wider audience and into more pervasive into our maritime leaders. Because when they get to know what's the potential of AI, then they can start to think about the application that they can then create and the capabilities that they can build up in their organization. So it is very good that AI Singapore now is partnering MPA in this webinar. Well, I also hope that you noticed, for instance, new technologies needs a time to nurture in maritime. I'll give you an example in the area of 3D printing. It started almost like 2 years ago, where we also partner with National Program Officers, NAMI, and we identify the use of 3D printing. And how we come about that is also because of the demand in our maritime industry. Companies come to us and mention the potential use of 3D printing and how they can revitalize and also revolutionize the way ship supplies are done. So we take a journey of slowly educating what is 3D printing, then doing a study of 3D printing, the parts, 100 parts that maritime can actually work on. And this year, we are trialing the printing of all these 3D parts on board the ships. So I think AI may take a similar approach. We first have a roundtable last year, as I mentioned, to talk about how we could actually make use of AI. This is a session in which Kevin from AI Singapore will help us to understand more about what AI can do and what AI shouldn't be doing. I think it starts from a great challenge statements, the areas in which you want to build, and then you look from the technology to augment and supplement you. Hopefully, after this webinar, we will have a lot more feedback from you in terms of use cases, in terms of challenge statements and areas in which maritime can make use of AI. Then we can go into more collaboration as a whole in the Maritime Center. With that, let me then pass back the time back to Kevin to bring us through this afternoon's session. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Kenneth. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you very much for choosing to spend time with us today. My name is Kevin Lee. I am the head of AI advisory in AI Singapore. So over the next hour, an hour plus, what we like to do is really to start by sharing about some AI basics, very short. The majority of time we'll be spending talking about use cases that we see in AI Singapore, as well as some experts from MPA and podcasts. They will be sharing with you some of the use cases that have been deployed successfully in the maritime industry. And then after that, I will come back and also share with you what do we do in AI Singapore and what kind of programs that you can leverage on, and how do you get our help should you be interested to embark on this AI journey. I'm also joined by my colleague Tenpo. He will be helping me answer some questions along the way. So if you have questions, do type in, and then at the end we will also have a Q&A session where you can unmute yourself and talk. So without much ado, further ado, let me first start by introducing to you who is AI Singapore for those who are not familiar. We are a national program office that is funded by NRF. Our goal is to catalyze the adoption of AI in Singapore. We are hosted by NUS. That means that's where our physical office is. And however, we are operating quite independently from NUS. That means that we work with other institutions of higher learnings, universities and polytechnics, to tap on their resources in AI, as well as different governmental agencies as well. And we have been in existence for roughly slightly more than 3 years now. But one thing to note here, if you are looking for our URL, don't type ai.sg, because that will lead you to a different website that has nothing to do with us. Our URL is aisingapore.org. Right, so let me first start by talking about some definition of AI versus machine learning versus deep learning, because that can be a bit confusing. So AI is a concept that is not new. It started back in the 1950s by a group of very smart people. Their goal is really to create machines or programs that can sense, reason, adapt, and act like human. There are many ways to go about doing that. In the early days, the methodologies they started with is based on rules. The idea is, why not we break down the intuitions, the knowledge of human, and then try to codify them into programs. If we are able to do that, perhaps machines can think and act like human. Unfortunately, that wasn't very successful. Therefore, the industry went into a down cycle we call AI winter. Up until the 1980s and 1990s, a different approach started. And that is, instead of using rules, why not we use algorithms and start to learn from data, so that the algorithm can pick up those patterns or rules by themselves. They had some successes. However, due to the fact that the machines back then weren't powerful enough and there weren't enough data to train the machines to recognize the patterns from the data, so that wasn't very successful either. That's why the industry went to what we call the second AI winter. Then fast forward to roughly about 10 years ago, 2010s. That's when the hardware power of CPUs and GPUs start to mature to a state where we are now able to train something called neural network, not just one layer, but multiple layers. And that's why we are calling it the deep learning revolution. Because now with the computing power, as well as big data, the era of big data, where there's enough data in the world now to start giving the machine the ability to learn enough so that it can do interesting stuff. So that's why nowadays when we talk about AI, we usually talk about deep neural network or deep learning. However, let me highlight that deep learning is not the only way to do artificial intelligence. It is the best known method that we have today. In the future, there may be new technologies that come along. So in a way that the way that we understand it is deep learning is a subset of machine learning, and machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. There's another term that some people might be wondering what's the difference between like analytics, which a lot of companies are doing, versus AI or machine learning. So when you hear the term analytics, a lot of times people mean doing things like business intelligence, showing from the data, let's look at what are the trends that has happened in the past. So in analytics, the focus is really to describe how things behave in the past by looking at graphs and looking at trends and stuff like that, so that we can understand the events that has happened at a broad groupings perspective. Like for example, how much sales has been done by each country, each group, etc., so that it can offer insights for human to make decisions and to take actions. Whereas AI, the key difference is that not only does AI give you insights, but more importantly, it does predictions. The focus of AI is using data in the past to help you do predictions so that you can make better judgment for the future. In addition, AI technologies nowadays can also take in as input non-traditional, non-structured data, things like text that users input, or pictures or videos, as well as things like clickstream data, means that how the users spend their time on a website. All those can be used as input to train the machine learning model so that it can give you more precise prediction down to individual level in order to improve accuracies and so that it can recommend better actions for human. Hope this gives you a broad understanding of the difference between analytics and AI or machine learning. So if we look at a broad level, there are a few categories of technologies that are very popular nowadays, starting from computer vision. Now, computer vision is not new per se. It has been around for decades. However, in the past 10 odd years, people are starting to use deep learning, machine learning method to do computer vision. Starting in the year 2011, 2012, there was an explosion of new methods, new technologies that can allow an algorithm to take in either a picture or a video, make sense out of it, as well as to do predictions. So that those kind of capabilities allows us to do many interesting stuff, including things like driverless cars and all that. So that explosion started almost about 10 years ago, and and then it started, it created a lot of unicorns, companies like SenseTime and all those that you have probably heard of. Later, I'll show you some examples of what computer vision can do for the maritime industry. Now, natural language processing or natural language understanding, NLP, NLU, this is another branch of AI that has become very popular, especially in the past 3 to 4 years. It came slightly later than computer vision, but in the past 2 to 3 years, because of the new methodology of doing NLP, as well as the ability to gather lots of text data from the web. When I say lots, it means like billions of words or billions of sentences, so that it can train the machines to understand human language. Human language is very difficult for machines because when we speak, there's a lot of ambiguity, and we also assume a lot of a background knowledge, intuitions and stuff like that. Let me give you an example. If I tell you that I cannot put this instrument into the luggage because it is too big, well, that is needless to say, you understand when I say it is too big, the instrument is too big, therefore it cannot go into the luggage that is too small. But to a machine, that kind of intuition, though, is non-intuitive to the machine. It doesn't know that a big thing cannot go into a small thing. So when you say it doesn't know whether it is the instrument or is it the luggage. Or you can say a word like bank. Bank could be a place where you go deposit money, or it could be the river bank, or it could be some other type of banks, right? So there's a lot of ambiguity. However, due to the recent advancement and the ability to look at so many types of examples from the web, now NLP, NLU is approaching a level where they will be able to understand this kind of contextual differences, semantics in the language, so that it can do very interesting stuff like giving them a document and for it to find out what it means, what is the intention of the users, etc. The next thing is predictive analytics. That is very popular, meaning taking data of the past so that you can predict the future. The applications could be like predicting sales, predicting demand, predicting which customer is gonna churn, meaning not buy from you anymore, so that you should take care of them. You can also predict when the machine will fail, etc., etc. So predictive analytics is another big uh, area of AI. Speech processing, that is very common. And if you have Siri or you have Google Home, you will know what I mean. Now the machine can understand what a common, the way that we speak. In the past, that was very difficult, but a lot of progress has also been made in that area. Robotics and automation, that is very popular as well. Now, when I say robotics, it is not just about those machines that you see in movies, but also it would include things like driverless car, that is a robot, or a drone that you fly, that is a robot. So when you put AI into robotics as well as automation, it will allow you to do very interesting stuff in manufacturing, in warehousing, in logistics, in many areas. Last but not least, generative AI, that is relatively new. What I've shown you so far, talk about so far, is the ability for machines to understand inputs. But what about machines to generate outputs, right? So there's a branch of AI right now that allows the machine to generate, an article, a news article, to produce music, or even produce an entire movie. So those are generative AI. So those are at a high level. These are the key areas that AI has made a lot of progress in the past 10 years. Now, moving to the right-hand side, on the maritime side, you can look at the use cases that are popular. Predictive analytics, we just talked about it. Later in the use case, we will be showing you some of them. Equipment optimization, that is very important for maritime because of the high asset base of this industry. Safety and security, that is important. We'll also be showing you some use case later. Route optimization, needless to say, that is important for logistics, shipping, etc. Performance forecasting, I've talked about the predictive analytics that is related to performance forecasting. You'll hear some use cases as well later, as well as cost reduction. So as you can see, these are areas that are very important to the industry, and it will, if done well, it will give you competitive advantage to your company. So let me now switch gear and start talking about use case related to computer vision. Now, in the case of in the port or shipping, there are computer vision is being used quite a lot. At the courtesy of PSA, I will be showing you some use case that has been deployed in Singapore. So in the past, at a shipping port, those cranes are being operated by human. However, now it is being done either remote control and in some area automated. So there are things that is needed, like you need to make sure that there are some areas that there are no vehicles or no human. So you need path intrusion detection, you need human detection, as well as you need things like twist lock detection to align the containers, as well as vessel detection. Let me show you some examples here. So this is an example of path intrusion. Like this area, they are not supposed to have human or even cars, right? So this is quite a mature technology already. However, it is very important if you operate a warehouse, you operate a work a work area that you do not want human or path intrusion. So many of these solutions, as it comes standard with the surveillance videos, right? So if there are certain there are quite a lot of standard solutions out there already. However, if you want specific things to be detected, like a door where you can only admit certain type of things or certain human to go in and not come out. So those will become more customized. The standard solutions might not be able to handle that. So in that case, you would then need to have a machine learning model, a CV model that you train for your customized solution. Like for example, things like this. This is looking from the top down. You can see human here. You can see human here, but it is not the full human. You can only see a white patch, which is the hard hat, as well as part of the human body looking from top down. Therefore, standard solutions might be difficult. These are areas where you would need customized training. And also like this twist lock detection, this is specifically looking for are these areas where the containers will be fastened. So this kind of CV applications, first you need to do the detection. After that, it can then be used by the downstream applications, whatever that is. It could be the automated machinery or for certain other applications. Now you can, in terms of CV, another big area is object segmentation. Like this is an example of it, that you will be able to detect ships, as well as detect the type of ships, big, small, the sky, the sea, etc., etc. So we have done, AI Singapore, we have done projects related to this for the shipping industry as well. Not only at the sea, but also they would need detection for different environments, warehouses, etc., etc. So this is another very popular area of computer vision. Now, besides doing that, we can also use computer vision for physical security. Like for example, this one. This is, we did this project in collaboration with Hewlett Packard. This is a computer vision application for social distancing. So we use the human pose estimation model to build a social distancing tool to help HP to reopen their operations, their factory operations in Singapore. This already has been deployed, and they are looking at taking this to deploy to their other locations. So as you can see from this demo, people who walk too close, they will get an alert. So what you can see is, you can imagine this kind of technology to be deployed in warehouses, in logistic industry, where you want to detect two things being too close or too far away. You know, all those can be done. Now let me switch gear and talk about predictive maintenance. This is also a very popular use case in maritime industry, as well as outside of maritime industry. So in many scenarios, manufacturing, as well as warehousing, etc., you deal with equipments, and the equipments need maintenance. In the past, it is the usual model is we used to it breaks, right? The problem with that reactive type of maintenance model is you often have to have downtime. So people move from reactive maintenance to preventive maintenance, meaning regular schedule. However, regular schedule solves some of the problem, it creates others. Like if you have it too regular, it becomes wasteful. If you have it too irregular, then you will still have downtime. So it is an improvement, but preventive maintenance is still not the ideal solution. So people move into predictive maintenance, which where machine learning and AI comes in. So by taking into consideration data that comes from the machine itself, like the sound of the machine, the vibration of the machine, plus IoT devices, we will be able to deploy machine learning model to predict when the next maintenance is required. So when you have this type of predictive maintenance, then you will be able to have schedules that is just in time. So later, in my second half of my presentation, I'll show you some of the AI applications that we have done, and predictive maintenance is one of them. Last but not least is prescriptive maintenance. Prescriptive maintenance go one step beyond predictive maintenance, that to look not just as the requirement of the machine, but also at the enterprise goal. Like for example, how is the schedule of your factory or your warehouse? What are the shipping requirements? What are the constraints? With those, machine learning model can take all these data into consideration as inputs. So you have sensor to detect the machines, as well as maintenance records and your enterprise data. So all these will go into the machine learning model so that it can help you do prediction and recommend action for you moving forward. So what I hope that I've done is to give you just a flavor of what AI can do. So with that, in the future, if you can think of what might work for your company, do come back to us. At the later part of the presentation, I will tell you specifically what are the programs that AI Singapore has that can allow you to tap onto to help you move towards your AI journey. Now, I would like to pass the time to Gavin from MPA to share his use case. All right, let me stop share, and Gavin, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Gavin from MPA. Today, I'm going to share with you how MPA leverages on AI to augment our port operations as well as enforcement. Project Safer derived from sense-making analytics for maritime event recognition. It's a research collaboration between MPA and IBM. The objective is to develop and test new analytics-based and machine learning technologies aimed at improving our port operations as well as enforcement. This slide shows the different building blocks that forms the entire Safer architecture. Starting from the bottom, you will notice that there are data feeds from our various data sources that will go through the data capture and integration layer. Ingest data to the data validation layer, where we will activate the sense-making framework that was developed during the project to undergo entity resolution, to validate and clean the data, and develop the vessel model to be used in the data analytics layer for the predictive and sense-making analytics that will produce the results, which will then be consumed by our operations users via a unified dashboard in the form of a real-time alerts or schedule reports. Project Safer undergo a series of live trials to validate the sense-making modules, and the results have been largely positive. Here are some successful use cases that I highlight to you today. The first one is infringement analytics. MPA port inspectors keep our waters safe by conducting regular patrols, inspections, and enforcing regulations. There were cases where hovercraft are caught flouting safety regulations through these regular patrols and inspections. While our port inspectors has been effective in performing their duties, there's a limit to how many hovercraft a port inspector can actually inspect per shift. Therefore, it will really be very beneficial if they can be proactively alerted of potential infringements to enable them to perform their duties more efficiently. What this infringement analytics does is to detect and localize the infringements committed by the hovercraft in real time. These infringements will then be shown as an alert on the port inspector's iPad, who will then proceed to intercept the suspected craft and for further investigation by verifying the documents on board. In doing this, we are actually adopting a very targeted approach in conducting our inspections around the port waters to ensure that the inspections are done more effectively and efficiently. Next, for detection of vessel entering prohibited areas, safety of the port waters is paramount, and ensuring that restricted areas are not entered without authorization has been a challenge. The objective for this module is to detect vessels that are entering restricted areas without proper authorization. This will allow MPA to enforce security in sensitive areas in port waters more effectively. The third use case is the automated movement detection. MPA Port Operations Control Center handles more than 4,000 vessel movements daily in our port waters. Currently, our officers input the start and end time and the location of vessel into the port traffic management system whenever a ship master reports its movement over the VHF radio system. As a ship master can report before or after vessel move, there's inconsistency in vessel movement reporting times, and human input error could also happen. What this module does is to ingest the sensor data from our vessel traffic information system using the vessel models that was developed to automatically detect the movement of vessels in real time and update the start and end time, plus the location of the vessel automatically into the port traffic management system. Through this module, our officers' time spent on data entry can be reduced greatly, and the time saved is translated to more time in ensuring the safety of navigation of ships within our port waters. This will also reduce the amount of VHF communication between the POCC or control center, the vessels, eliminate input errors, and achieve consistency in movement reporting times. Last but not least, the pilot boarding detection. Pilot boarding detection modules will make use of the vessel traffic information system data to estimate pilot boarding time automatically to validate the service provider's service levels. This module not only allow us to monitor the service level of our pilot service providers more efficiently, but more importantly, disputes that usually take more than 3 weeks now can be done within 3 days. Moving beyond the research, MPA will be operationalizing safer as we forge ahead to conceptualize and develop an AI-based command, control, and communication systems for enhanced enforcement and incident management that will provide us with comprehensive situational awareness of vessel activities within the port waters, detects infringements and anomalies with analytics-based decision support tools, and shortens planning and execution time through a unified workspace. With this, I've come to the end of my presentation. I'll now hand over the presentation to Nidhi, who will present their use cases to you. Thank you very much. I'll now stop the screen sharing. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Kevin. Hi, this is Nidhi. Nice to speak with all of you. I lead Podcast, which is a startup based in Singapore, and we work with shipping companies, freight forwarders, and manufacturers globally. When Kevin invited me to speak here, there are two specific use cases that our company works on that I'm most happy to speak about. One is demand forecasting of container volumes between any two ports. And the second is the arrival time, the ETA prediction of the container at any port in the voyage up to the POD. If you think about these two use cases, the broad overarching theme is really how so many disruptions have been happening in the external environment, be it economic, be it COVID-19 or any others. And how do we sort of start taking those into consideration to make our supply chains and maritime overall more resilient? So that's why I wanted to start a bit with that theme and then talk about the specific use cases. So just thinking about the different risks that we're dealing with, of course, we have to start with COVID-19. It's impacted not just the economy overall, but definitely shipping as well in terms of the demand going down. It affected the blank sailings capacities and eventually the lead times. But in addition to that, there are constant risks that we deal with in ocean supply chains, be it cyclones, be it port congestion, or any kind of demand supply patterns like the US-China trade dispute. In addition, we also see really unforeseen events like we saw the explosion at the port in Beirut. All of this has an impact because ships change their route. They can divert their arrival times, or if there are cyclones, etc., then they need to reroute themselves. They need to stay longer, take longer to reach to the next port. It all also has an impact on carbon emissions and footprint. And because as an industry, we're trying to reduce that, that's also significant impact that we need to take into consideration. In addition to this, it's interesting to note that the customer requirements are also changing. So we all talk about the Amazon effect, which is really that customers are expecting guaranteed delivery times. They want to know where the cargo is, when it's going to arrive, a defined time window within which it arrives. And if there's any disruption to that, they want to get proactive alerts, essentially making visibility more dynamic. This has been really prevalent in the last mile, but it's really now increasing into the upstream, into the maritime supply chain and overall end-to-end visibility as well. The second thing is that, of course, we've seen e-commerce increasing. With e-commerce increasing, it also means that cargo is increasingly going to be containerized. And there will be more and more margin pressures on making supply chains more efficient so that we can actually deliver goods faster, cheaper, and on time to the customer. Again, all of this has an impact in terms of how we are able to manage the inefficiencies and remove them and make visibility and forecasting much better so that we know exactly what's going to happen when. And then the third thing to do with that is the kind of customers that we are seeing. So the new generations are much more into tech adoption. So at home, in various things that they do, be it order food or a cab, it's all about technology and how to make their lives simpler. And when they go to work, they're expecting that also to happen. When manufacturers are expecting cargo to be booked, they all want that instantaneity. And it needs to spread throughout the supply chain, from booking ocean cargo to pricing it, to tracking and visibility on it, to making performance analytics also much more smoother and really interactive. Yet, if we consider these external disruptions and customer changes, only 21% of our supply chains globally are resilient today, and that's as per a Gartner study recently. And why is that happening? It's because supply chains are really complicated. There are multiple handovers. Even when we just talk about ocean movement, there are multiple transshipments. There are these sort of black boxes about what happens inside the port or inside the customs process. How long is that going to take? Which brings that unpredictability. And then on top of that, to deal with all of those external changes, schedule changes, blank sailings, or ports being skipped, and unforeseen events, it becomes very hard with our current manual processes to be able to manage this, which leads to a lot of firefighting, which means we're spending a lot of time on checking, how much cargo will actually go, will the ship will actually be full or not, when should we change pricing. We're spending time in calling up the freight forwarder or the agents to figure out where the cargo is and when it's going to arrive. It has a direct impact in terms of our supply chain costs, both in terms of efficiency of the ship being utilized or assets being utilized. Two, if the cargo is late, detention, demurrage, more expediting of air freight, more safety stock being built. And also all of this means that the customer is impacted, the customer service levels, the on-time and full KPIs are affected. This is something which is estimated to be almost $30 billion for the whole container logistics industry. So what are the things that can be done? And these are specific examples from predictive visibility and predictive demand forecasting that I want to share with you. The first is, we talked about weather as a disruption. And here's a real example where machine learning and AI can help. There are usually cyclones in specific parts of the oceans, Panama Canal being one of them. This is a specific example where recently there was a cyclone, and we could see using satellite data, using data that's talking about really granular weather patterns, the direction, speed, intensity at which the cyclone is moving, and the direction, speed, route that the ship is taking. Combining all of that, we could see that the ship is actually taking a detour and it's going to take a different route, and it's going to arrive late by almost 1 day, 24 hours to the next port. But this does not just stop there. There's a knock-on effect in all the ports after that, where there's a delay that's going to happen in the vessel arriving. Now, the first thing is that the vessel is going to be late. The second thing is that all the containers on the vessel are going to be late. How does the port plan for these changes? How much in advance will they get that information? Does the shipper know that this is likely to happen? And when is it that the shipper will actually get that information? Is the freight forwarder, the logistics company, kind of between these, between the shipper and the shipping company, and trying to figure out when they get that information? So this basically trickles down throughout the supply chain. And for this specific case, we saw that the shipping company did not actually update that the vessel is likely to be delayed, because they're still kind of getting that feedback from the pilot. So by the time they get that feedback, it's already quite late. And planning at the port, or in terms of the trucks being on time, will not be made in as much early or proactive manner. What can be done with machine learning is we could predict exactly how long the vessel will take to arrive at the next port and every port following that. And what is the reason why this is happening? So the machine learning and AI can also point out that it's due to weather being adverse that this delay is happening. This allows all of these parties in the supply chain, the port, the shipping company, the freight forwarder, the shipper, and the trucking company, all of these parties to make changes in the downstream supply chain. There could be notifications given to the factory, to the customer, and basically improve the speed, the lead times of responding, make sure that we're not having additional demurrage retention costs, make the customer satisfied by giving proactive notice, and also impact congestion levels at the port and CO2 emissions overall. Similar other examples, so we spoke about the port explosion at Beirut, and this is again very real, where AI and machine learning can help. So there were vessels which were scheduled to go to the port in Beirut, and because of obvious reasons, they skipped that port on the day or around the day of the explosion, and headed directly to the next port instead. Again, what is that lag between which we can see that information, that movement of ship, change in schedule, change in routes directly from data, which is geolocation, movement of the vessel, and information about what's happening around the port, what are the other vessels that are stranded there, how long is the waiting time at the port. All of this information is there. That's the good thing. And it can give us that information using AI and machine learning much in advance compared to when the shipping company will be able to make their information changes and be able to tell the forwarder and the shipper that this is likely to happen. So again, what can be done with AI is to predict the schedule change and that the port is being skipped. quantify that into what exactly is going to be the arrival time at the next port and all the ports after that, and then to pivot, basically make the downstream supply chain changes and really save time and cost for every party in the supply chain. The third example, again related to predictive visibility, is about operational changes that always happen. So this is again real. One of our customers, which is a large F&B company, they basically have had multiple cases where the shipping company decides to move containers from one ship to another. So for the same BL, they had promised a particular arrival time and a particular vessel that they had allocated. And for various reasons, they had to make those changes at the transit port, which meant that 10 containers, 40-foot containers, arrived at the POD in at least 5 to 7 days in advance compared to what was promised. And this notification was not given to the F&B company in time, which meant that there were no trucks that were ready to pick this up. And they had to stay at the port, and the port charges, the detention demurrage charges had to be paid. For 10 containers, it does not seem that big an issue, but if a customer has 200,000 containers on an annual basis, and this is something which they have to deal with on a firefighting or a very transactional basis, then it becomes quite significant in terms of the overall supply chain costs. And basically what we spoke about in terms of reducing margins, in terms of requirements of customers, this Amazon effect, this becomes very important to be able to get better visibility on. So again, what AI can do is basically be able to understand those changes, the planning changes that the liner is likely to make in terms of the BL and vessel, and then quantify what's the kind of arrival time, try and give alerts on which are those 10 containers out of those 200,000 which are likely to be at risk, so that there's no manual follow-up for all of those containers, 200,000 containers, but only those 10 containers which are likely to be at risk have a need to be followed up on. And then they can make the necessary changes and really save on the D&D costs as well. I'll shift gears a little bit and talk about demand forecasting. So in terms of looking at what's the volume of containers between any two ports, how it happens today is really looking at historical data. What are the volumes that last Chinese New Year we had moved between any two ports, and looking at how the economy is doing, what's likely to happen, and that defines the kind of load factors or utilization of the vessel, that defines the empty container repositioning requirements, and eventually it also defines the pricing changes. Again, if you think about airline tickets and how we buy tickets, it's all a very dynamic process. So what machine learning and AI can do is basically be able to predict the demand at a port level within a service for each of the port basically in a service. So if this can be predicted 6 to 8 weeks in advance and can be compared with the allocated capacities, this basically allows the liner and the asset owner to take better decisions on how they can shift capacities. So here's an example which kind of anonymized, illustrated, showed for a particular service across the different ports. There were certain offices, and this is at the early stages of COVID, that for Hong Kong and Shanghai, there was much lower demand than the allocated capacity, which is in red here. But for other offices, other ports on the same ship's service, the capacity was actually going to be over exceeded. If this information is given about 6 to 8 weeks in advance, the liner or the asset owner can make changes and basically shift this allocated capacity, be able to fulfill the load factor and make sure that they're still profitable. The second thing is that they can get an indication on what kind of bookings these are, which kind of customers, which kind of industries are actually shipping from Shanghai, which are shipping from Vietnam or any other port. And they can have that guidance with their sales team and figure out how do we actually ensure that we can maximize the booking on this particular vessel. This then also goes into empty container repositioning, and it also goes into how you're able to change pricing more dynamically. So that's again what AI could do. And the differentiating thing is not just to use historical data, but to use the power of external data, consumption production patterns, freight traffic in Shanghai, for example, CPI, PMI, but specific industries, how things are changing, capacities in the market. So all of that is something that machine learning can do, which human intuition is not able to do as accurately. and as at much granularity on a very frequent basis. And that's where AI can really help. So three things how this is done in the technology. One is really combining the power of data. And that's what I spoke about, to bring that together from various parties in the supply chain, but also these external events. Start making one language of all of this, and then keep it updated in a real-time, secure manner, and then start creating meaning and derive data from it. And then machine learning and AI can help predict this by making it more intelligent at a high accuracy, frequency, and granularity, and in a secure enterprise manner. So eventually what we're talking about is really making our supply chain control towers more intelligent by these two use cases of AI, which is about demand forecasting and predictive visibility. That's from my side. Thank you. So I'll stop sharing now, and then I will pass it back to Kevin.
All right, thank you very much, Nidhi, for the great presentation. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so yeah, once again, thank you, Nidhi, and thank you, Gavin. And I hope that you have got a glimpse of what are some of the use cases that have been deployed in the maritime industry. Hopefully that will give you some ideas of what you might want to start to explore. Now, let me switch gear here and start talking about what can AI Singapore, how AI Singapore can help you if you decide to embark on this AI adoption journey. Now, the way that I see that we see AI companies adopting this journey always starts from education. So you go to our website, you will see programs like AI for everyone, AI for industry, AI apprentice programs and stuff like that. That focuses on educating Singapore's public to learn more about AI. Then AI Clinic is a program that is structured for specific industry. What we are doing today is one type of AI clinic, which is a webinar-based type of AI clinic. Our objective is really to give the audience in a particular industry an idea of what has been used successfully in that particular industry. The objective is really to provoke you guys to start thinking about use cases in your specific companies. Now, when we also do AI clinics that are smaller, workshop-based with 10-odd companies. In the past, we could do it face-to-face so that the sharing can be more intimate. Now, coming out of AI clinic, should a company like yourself have any question specific use cases that you would like to explore, or you may think that, hey, I now know something about AI, but I am not at a stage where I can come up with AI ideas myself that is pertaining to my own company. We have another program called AI Discovery. Now, this AI Discovery is a consulting engagement, one-to-one under NDA, so that the company can share with us their intimate details of their use case, their environment, the problem statement, as well as their data, so that we can, together with the company, either explore white space, look at what potentially we could do, use AI to solve their problem statements, or we can help them prioritize those problem statements into specific actionable AI projects. So typically this kind of engagement is the total length could be a few days. However, is spread out to about a couple of weeks, or about 2 weeks kind of engagement. Half a day type of face-to-face or through video conferencing where we will go through the AI discovery process. But before that, they will have pre and post 2 to 3 days type of engagement where we understand your business as well as to deliver a recommendation to you. Now, out of this discovery sessions or this discovery program, you will get a set of recommended actions. Now, the recommended actions could be that you are ready to embark on a AI project, or you may not be ready because of data availability. I think 9 out of 10 companies that we talk to, they are not ready from a data perspective. Either they don't have the data, or they have the data but no labels. Why do you need labels? As to train the machine learning model, or the data could reside in a format that is not consumable by the model. Therefore, we will need data labeling, transformation, cleansing, etc. So we also help companies to do that, either ourselves or through our partners. So what you can see is that we help Singapore-based companies through this journey step by step. And in every step of the way, companies will have different AI readiness, and we will have a different methodology to help them. Just like I said, Singapore-based companies, that includes local companies as well as foreign companies with a strong presence in Singapore. So if you have gone through this journey and you end up here and you want to do an AI project, there are a couple of ways that you can do it. One is really to buy services, right? So if the problem statement that you have is a common problem statement with standard solution, the lowest risk way for you to do it is to engage a company to solve it for you. Like podcast just now, Niti have presented to you some of the solutions that they already have. And if your problem statement can be solved by these standard solutions, I think that would be the most appropriate way and the lowest risk and lowest cost way for you to do it. However, if you have a problem statement that is very unique, that standard solution does not exist, or you want to build your internal AI capability instead, like building up a team so that you can do the development of the solution yourself in the future, or you would rather develop a proprietary set of IPs instead of buying a standard solution, then we are here to help you. Now, the way that we help you is through a program called 100 Experiment, and AIAP stands for AI Apprentice Program. The way this works is that instead of giving grants to an individual company so that they can do things themselves, what we do is that we will put together the AI engineering team for the company to solve their problems, right? The program is called 100 Experiment. That is historical reasons. Now we are have gone way beyond 100. So, but the name stuck. Now AIAP means the apprentices, which I will talk. I'll share with you what that means in the next slide. But basically, what this program means is that over a 7 months period. Now it says I put 9 to 18 months here is because there is a different type of a complexity in projects. However, for most intent and purposes for industry type of projects, it's a 7 months project. In this 7 months type of project, what we will do is we put together the AI engineers 2 to 4 in a team that is mentored by a senior engineer. And then we are also backed up by many different experts within AI Singapore. So they will solve that problem and build that MVP for the client. Now, the client at the end of the 7 months will end up with a solution that is deployed in their chosen environment. So the chosen environment can be a cloud environment, or can be at the edge, etc., right? So at the end of the day, you will get not just a product, but also the entire IP belongs to you. AI Singapore doesn't retain the IP, and you will also get the code, and everything inside is not a black box. We will also do the knowledge transfer from this team to your technical team. What we do ask for is you must provide 3 types of people together to work with us, and one is a project owner, 2 is a business owner, and 3 is a technical owner. So these 3 roles, it can be you know, 2 or 3 people or even more than that, will participate with our engineers throughout this project. Now, if you were to do a project like this with a commercial company, it will easily cost you a few $100,000. But for us, what we will do is AI Singapore will subsidize half the cost, and the company is responsible for the other half. And the other half, typically, you will end up, you know, close to 100 plus $200,000, but you don't have to pay everything in cash. 70% is in kind. In kind means just now you have the human resource together with us. That is in kind. You only need to pay 30% in cash, and that 30% usually typically ends up to be about 60 plus, close to $70,000. So it is a good way, it is a low-cost way for companies to embark into their first AI project if they want to do a customized project. Another good news, though, is that because of COVID, we now have a special program that is tagged to this 100E that allows local Singapore companies in specific sectors to be able to get a even further discount in terms of the cash contribution. You only need to pay 10% instead of 30%. That comes up to be about $20,000+. So if you are interested in this program, do contact us. I will give you the contact later in the slides. So let me talk a bit more about the apprentice, who they are. Apprentices are not students. These are people who already have the capability to do coding and also have some experience building machine learning solutions. However, what they don't have is a real life experience in developing and deploying a solution for a company. So we bring those people in after they pass a certain entrance qualification exams. And once they pass, they will have to quit from their existing job to join this program full time. The program is 9 months. And the first 2 months is what we call deep skilling to ensure everybody has got all the basic skills. And then they will go into this 7 months of development that I've just described to you. And at the end of these 7 months, they will deploy the MVP for their client, and then they will be put back to the industry. Some of our clients, we do encourage our clients to hire these engineers. That will be the best way for them to have continuity, and some of our sponsors or clients did that as well. So this is a way for us to help companies in Singapore to have their experience building an AI solution, as well as a great way for them to build up their internal AI capabilities as well. So let me just give you a broad idea of what are the projects that we have done through this program. The first one is predictive lift maintenance. This is related to the predictive maintenance that I was talking about earlier on. This particular project is done with Sabana Jurong. So this model allows us to predict the lift maintenance requirements few days in advance. Then we have also done this credit scoring for a microfinance company that allows the model will do credit scoring for them. This is a driver scoring and kind of routing type of project for a logistic-based company. And this one is related to healthcare. It starts with a scanner, reading outputs from a scanner on wounds so that it can predict how well the wound is healing. This is NLP related. This is a technology that AI Singapore has that allows us to do voice recognition of 4 languages that Singaporeans tend to speak: English, Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. So this model is able to recognize all 4 languages in one sentence. That's typically how Singaporeans speak, right? Now then, anomaly detection at the bottom here. This is a very common use case. This particular client is in the shipping industry, doing anomaly detection to help them navigate. Anomaly detection, as I have explained to you earlier on, is a very popular model. You can also think about what are the use cases that you might have that will require this type of machine learning model. Equipment return prediction. This is done for IBM to help them forecast the return of products so that they can plan their inventory. And this one, last but not least, is NLP for Expedia, the travel portal in Japanese. So we help them recognize certain entities that people type onto their website in Japanese. So what I hope I've done for you is to show you a spread of different type of projects that we have done. In total, we have approved about 50 of such projects, and it cuts across all kinds of industry, as well as all kinds of customers, from government to large companies, Fortune 500 type of companies, as well as SMEs and startups in Singapore. Other things that we help customers in Singapore is through something called AI bricks. AI bricks are reusable components that we develop for our clients. So some of these are open source, some of these are through licensing. So as long as you are a Singaporean company, we will be happy to help you with this. You can go visit this URL for more information. Some of these are products like this Finepost. That is the one that we use for social distancing with HP, as well as libraries where if a company knows how to do coding themselves, they can just call on to the libraries themselves directly. So if you are interested to get your feet wet, to start trying embarking on an AI project, what should you do? The first and foremost is, do you have a business problems to solve? There are many business problems that you have. Some are AI related, some are not. So what I hope that I've done today is to show you some of the areas that you can start looking into today. However, if you are having some problems into identifying business problems, do come to us, do contact us. We can help you, either answering your questions or engage you in the AI discovery program. Or then the second thing that you have to ask yourself is whether you have relevant data, digitized and lots of them, so that you can build the machine learning model. Again, if you are not familiar with how to do that, we are here to help you. Then the third thing is that you need to put together a team, identify a team that you can experiment building this this AI project. And in this team, you will need a project owner, a tech lead, and also some stakeholders, the domain stakeholders in your company, so that you are building things that will fit a particular use case in your business. So another thing that is very important that we have seen is that company leadership buy-in is very, very critical. You must have the buy-in of senior management to make this work. A lot of times these are new things to a company. So having enough executive sponsorship is very critical to the success of this, of an AI project. So last but not least is that we always encourage people to start with a problem that you have high quality data. High quality data is more important than anything else to the success of an AI project. You may have a project that is more urgent, that has more business impact. However, if it does not have high quality data, that will be a higher risk project. So the way that we look at it is from a technical feasibility and business value perspective. On the x-axis is technical feasibility, whether it's high or low, whether you have high data quality or low data quality versus business value. This is how we see it. If it is a low technical feasibility and low business value, that's something that you should avoid. This is the ideal, where you have high business value and high data quality and high technical feasibility. That's the ideal, but usually things aren't that ideal. So the question is, between this and this, which one should you choose, right? For a team that is new, that is not experienced with AI, this is the right thing to go. Because what we are looking here is high data quality and high technical feasibility first. Then, once you are experienced in doing it, then you migrate towards here. Then you can look at high business value, although the data quality isn't as ideal, but you have experience in embarking on such projects. So these are the things that we will advise you in the advisory program. So we will go through in very detail your problem statements, look through your data availability. We will tell you specifically whether you are right here or you are right here, okay? So let me just summarize what we have talked about today, that AI is really a transformative and disruptive technology that is coming into the world. It will impact how businesses are done in each and every industry. Therefore, it is very important that you start having this conversation in your company, if it has not already started, about how you should embark on this AI adoption journey. And if you were to do that, the most important thing that I want you to get away from today's conversation is having data is the most important prerequisite. If you don't have it, AI will not be able to make any magic out of it. And last but not least, AI Singapore, we are here to help. Our mandate is to help Singapore company embark on this AI journey. So do make use of us. We'll be happy to talk to you. And if you want to contact us, this is the contact detail, ai-advisory@aisingapore.org. So with that, I conclude my presentation. And now let's take some questions. If you have questions, please unmute yourself and you can ask. Tempo, any questions that have been typed in?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Any questions for myself, Gavin, or Niti? Oh, hi.
Hey, hi. I'm Jordan Tan, Port Group CIO. Question, with regards to the help that we can get from AI Singapore, right? Noting that, you know, the resourcing and the kind of help that we can get, and that's a good guideline in terms of getting a business problem, stuff like that defined, right? So can you share with me what, if we decided to kind of partner with AI Singapore and getting the whatever resources that you have, you know, what is the kind of timeline and lead time for us to give you in advance notice and working towards getting things started and start running, basically getting the project kick off? What kind of timeline should we look at?
Okay, yeah, so that is a great question. Thank you, Jordan. First of all, it has to depend on individual situation and how ready you are as an organization to embark on AI project, as well as what kind of problem statement. If let's say you want to explore ideas, you know. So then we will start by helping you go through a exploratory type of process, and that will take a longer time, you know. So you will go from exploration, then to prioritization, and then to look at whether you have the data, right? So, but if you already have the problem statements and you already have the data, then it will be a much shorter shorter period. So maybe you can tell me a bit more about your use
it's more
case.
of the latter situation, right? We do have a couple of problem statements and do have a bunch of data that unfortunately is not like clean, harmonized, blah, 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 consolidated. We don't have a data lake, or it's kind of disparate type of a data repository. So that's a kind of situation we're in with a kind of a problem statement, a couple of them that we have defined. So kind of keen to get into some sort of pilot mode, you know, just to try it out small and get it going and learn from that, right?
Oh,
so
fantastic.
that's more that kind of scenario I'm looking at.
So I think you are in a more advanced stage than an average company. I think that is fantastic. Don't worry about the data, because 9 out of 10 companies are not ready with data. So what I would encourage is you can write to me or write to this email address. Then we can engage you in the discovery process. We can help you to look at what kind of a problem statement that you already have and look through your data. Then we can give you the advice. Typically, the discovery process is about 2 weeks. You know, you start from you send us an email, we have a brief discussion, then we schedule the right time. The discovery process will start by us. Tenpo is our leading principal consultant doing discovery. He will interview your people one-to-one on about 6 or 7 of them, so that he understands all the nitty-gritty details about your companies. And then from there we can go into a half-day session where we go through a kind of a advisory or consulting type of engagement, where we will talk a lot of details. And then from there, we will come up with the report. So the whole process is about 2 weeks. But then after that, most likely you will have to get into a period of fixing your data readiness. That one is very varied. It could be, a couple of weeks to a few months. Does that help, Jordan?
Yep. I think that helps. Yeah, and I think I'm more looking at like towards end of the year, beginning of next year, right? Couple of projects.
That would be a perfect time.
Yep,
Yeah,
I think that's a good time, kind of sensing. And let me drop you a note, and then we can see how to explore that as a potential option. It's good that I have a little bit more breathing space than to kind of work on that. And good to hear that kind of 2 weeks type of lead time that's needed.
Yeah, end of the year or early next year is fantastic. And if the outcome of the discovery session is that you are suitable to go into the 100E, just now I've said that there is a promotion going on right now where the COVID promotion, you can actually go into 100E with very, very little cash outlay.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Other questions?
Yeah, I also have a question. This is Thomas from Thomas Ship Management.
Hi, Thomas.
Just a quick one. What is the most common data source you are using, or what is the most common data format which is used when going forward with an AI project? Is it more like CSV? Is it Excel? Is it something totally different? Or which format is the easiest to start off with?
Yeah, it depends on the problem statement. If it is a CV project, obviously it's going to be pictures and videos, and it's NLP, then it's text-based data. But if it is those tabular type of data, it will usually reside in a database. So if you are talking about specifically more about those tabular type of data, most of our clients have it in database, but some of them they actually gave us in CSV is also fine. And it also depends on the size and the complexity of the data.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because our use case would, what I see at the moment is more on the predictive maintenance, which you have already a use case as well, and of course a lot of information coming from the clients which we have or which we are serving, but the analyze of the data is sometimes a little bit, or it's basically just laid on the human interpretation of what's going on. And I do believe that AI is they're way much advanced or can help a lot the colleagues I have in the company, giving them a chance to be more efficient.
Fantastic. Do write to us on this email that I have on screen. Then we can take it from there.
All right. Do you share all these presentations later on?
Yes, I believe we will. MPA will send that out.
That's great. Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot. I come back to you on that.
All right.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Joseph from Epic Gas.
Hi, Joseph.
Yeah. Just a quick question. We spoke about this predictive maintenance stuff, right? So we need to install some IoT devices on board to collect the data. So would AI Singapore help in that part as well, or after getting the clean data?
Yeah, usually that is better done by your either system integrator or your equipment manufacturer. Because only they will know how best to do that. So we will assume that the data is already available.
Okay, got it.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
This is Sharon from ChipServe.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi. Just a quick question. The predictive maintenance bit. I also know of 2 other companies that are doing this, but the question is not that. The question is mainly what other projects that pretty much ship management or ship owning companies go to you for besides predictive maintenance?
We have CV. Just now I showed you the computer vision type of applications using AI to help them navigate. We also have the anomaly detection. Just now I've shown you that that use case. So and also besides like shipping, there are also warehousing type of applications that we have done.
Okay. Cool.
Do you have like specific use case or problem statements that you would like us to take a look at, or?
So ShipServe is actually an e-procurement. We're pretty much on the technology side. So our clients would be the ship owners and ship managers. So we have an e-commerce platform connecting shipping companies with suppliers. And we do get so-called people coming up to us and other vendors coming up to us to link up the platform for predictive maintenance. And that's how I know 2 other companies that are doing this. But yeah, very interesting. Thank you so much.
Sure. If you have specific problem statements that you would like to bring to us to have a discussion, do write to us in that email address.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Going once? Going twice? Okay, I guess there's no more. So once again, thank you very much for your attention today. I hope that we have given you a glimpse of what AI can do in your industry, and perhaps you have also got some ideas that you have in mind. Do write to us in this email address. So let me conclude our session today, and let me pass you back to Kenneth.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just to wrap up, I think, AI is recognized as one of the key enablers. And recently we launched the Maritime Digitalization Playbook. It is in, you can find the playbook at the MPA website or SSA website. This playbook will allow you to kind of indicate where you are in terms of digital maturity. And then from there, where is your aspiration, and chart out a roadmap. And with this roadmap of projects, AI is definitely one area in which you can consider to up the capabilities of your company digitally. So I hope today the AI webinar will have given you a good sense of where are the limits and boundary, or maybe the unlimited boundary that you can explore. And with that, I hope everyone enjoyed the afternoon then. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. So if you need the slides or even the recording, you just drop me an email and I will respond to you as soon as possible. Thank you, and wishing everybody a good week ahead.
Thank you.